The world was quiet before the war began. The humans had built their colonies across the stars, believing they were alone. But one morning, the sky above the frontier planet Eden 5 burned with strange orange light. Ships that no human had ever seen entered the atmosphere, their shadows stretching across the fields like dark wings. Captain Ryan Hale, a soldier who had spent his life defending borders, looked up at the alien invasion with a mix of fear and duty. He had seen wars before, but never like this. The air shook with thunder. The ground split under the weight of falling metal. His unit, small and scattered, tried to hold the outpost near the forest line. Explosions painted the sky red. Communication went silent. Ryan shouted orders, his voice lost in the chaos. He ran through fire and smoke, trying to reach his team. When he finally reached the command shelter, it was already gone, burned, melted, empty. He was alone. He grabbed his rifle and moved toward the forest. The alien ships roared overhead, releasing bright drones that searched the ground with white beams. Ryan hid under a fallen tree, his breath steady, his heart loud. The war had reached him faster than anyone expected. The aliens were not just attacking, they were hunting. Hours passed. The night fell. Rain began to fall over the burning land, turning the smoke into fog. Ryan's uniform was wet, his boots heavy. He needed to find survivors. But every signal he tried was dead. No voices, no coordinates, only static. Then, from the darkness, he heard something strange. A sound too soft to belong to a soldier. It was crying. Ryan stopped and listened again. Through the cold wind, he could hear it like a child's sob. He moved carefully through the wet grass, holding his flashlight low. The sound grew clearer. He followed it past a group of broken trees until he saw something small sitting beside a stream. At first, he thought it was an animal. It had soft orange fur, a long tail, and pointed ears that twitched at every sound. But when it turned toward him, he froze. It was a girl. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly under the rain. She was shaking, clutching something tight to her chest, a small toy that looked like a fox. Her clothes were torn, her face smudged with dirt. She looked lost, terrified, and far too human to be a creature of war. Ryan slowly lowered his weapon. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The little girl blinked, her lips trembling. She spoke in a quiet, broken voice mixed with strange sounds he didn't understand. He realized she wasn't human. Her pupils were narrow, her teeth sharp, but her fear was real. He crouched down, keeping his voice calm. "Are you hurt?" She didn't answer, only looked at him with those bright amber eyes. She seemed to understand his tone, even if not his words. Carefully, Ryan took off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. She flinched at first, but then stayed still. He noticed she was trembling badly. There were burns on her small hands, and a strange mark glowed faintly on her wrist, a symbol, maybe of her people. "Where's your family?" he asked. The girl pointed toward the sky, then lowered her hand as if she didn't know anymore. Ryan sighed. The war had taken too much already, but this was different. He couldn't leave her. He lifted her gently. She was lighter than he expected, her tail curling weakly around his arm. As he walked back toward the forest path, the child buried her face in his chest, holding onto his jacket. For the first time in hours, the sound of explosions didn't feel so close. Ryan looked up at the sky. The alien ships were retreating, leaving trails of light behind them. Maybe the battle was over, or maybe this was just the beginning. He didn't know who this child was or what species she belonged to, but deep inside he knew one thing. If the aliens had come for war, then this girl might be the key to understanding them. He whispered quietly, "Don't worry, little one. I'll keep you safe." The rain eased. The forest glowed with the faint shimmer of bioluminescent plants. The girl slowly lifted her head, her small hand gripping his uniform. Her eyes met his again, full of something more than fear. It was trust. And as Ryan carried her into the deep woods, he didn't realize that far above, beyond the clouds, an alien mother was watching through the shattered viewports of her command ship, searching for her missing daughter. Her heart burned with both love and fury. And soon, she would come for the human who had taken her child. The forest was quiet after the storm. Rain dripped from the leaves and faint light shone through the morning mist. Ryan Hale walked slowly, holding the small fox girl close to his chest. Her breathing was calm now, her head resting on his shoulder. He could still hear the distant rumble of engines in the sky, but it was fading. The war seemed far away for now. All that mattered was the little girl he had found. When he reached the old outpost hidden in the trees, Ryan pushed open the half-broken metal door. Inside it was dark and cold. The place had been abandoned long ago, used by scouts before the colony expanded. He laid the girl gently on a blanket and started a small fire using scraps of old wiring and dry leaves. The orange light filled the small space, and for the first time, he could see her clearly. Her skin was pale but smooth, glowing faintly like soft moonlight. Her hair was fiery red-orange, matching the fur on her long tail. Her ears twitched when she heard the crackle of the fire. She was beautiful in an innocent way, like something out of a dream. Ryan tore a piece of cloth from his sleeve and cleaned her hands. She didn't resist. She just watched him quietly, her big amber eyes full of curiosity. When he smiled at her, she looked down shyly and hugged her small fox toy tighter. "Don't worry," he said softly. "You're safe now." She blinked, not understanding all his words, but she seemed to feel his kindness. Then she pointed at herself. "Leary," she said, her voice soft, almost musical. Ryan nodded. "Leary, that's your name?" She smiled a little, showing small sharp teeth, and nodded again. He repeated it. "Leary," the girl giggled quietly. For a brief moment, Ryan forgot about the war, the noise, the fear. There was only this small, lost child and the warmth of the fire. But deep inside, he knew the peace wouldn't last. Outside, strange lights moved between the trees. The drones from the alien army were still searching. Ryan turned off the small radio to avoid detection. He had no idea if rescuers would ever come for him, or if the aliens were still fighting the humans beyond the hills. He checked his weapon, and then turned back to Leary. She was watching him with wide eyes, as if she understood that danger was near. He put a finger to his lips. "Quiet," he whispered. Leary nodded and stayed silent, her tail wrapping around her legs. They stayed like that for hours. Every sound outside felt like a threat. The rustle of leaves, the hum of engines, the distant echo of explosions. But somehow Leary stayed calm, copying Ryan's movements. She even handed him a small metal can from the shelf, trying to help him prepare food. He smiled at her effort. "You're brave," he said. She tilted her head, not understanding, but smiled back anyway. Ryan opened a small ration pack and offered her a piece. She sniffed it first, then tasted carefully. Her ears flicked once, and she nodded in approval. Ryan laughed quietly. As they ate, Ryan looked at her again. She didn't look like a weapon or a soldier's child. She was gentle, innocent. But those glowing eyes and the strange mark on her wrist made him curious. Who was she? He reached for his small scanner device and gently pointed it toward the symbol. The screen flickered and displayed unknown language data, alien runes mixed with energy readings. It was a code. Ryan frowned. "You're important, aren't you?" he murmured. Leary tilted her head again. "Rin?" she said softly, trying to copy his name. He smiled. "Yeah. Ryan." She repeated it, Rin, and giggled again. For the first time in days, he felt something warm in his chest. Hope. But far above the forest, aboard a massive alien battleship, the search for the missing child continued. The alien mother, Queen Serathis, leader of the Vareen, stood before the holographic map, her voice trembling with emotion. "Find her," she commanded. "Find my daughter." Her soldiers bowed and began scanning the surface again. She knew her child was alive. She could feel the faint energy link through the bond that connected all Vareen families. But there was another presence near her daughter. A human. Her eyes glowed bright blue. "If he harms her," she whispered, her voice turning cold, "I will burn his world." Back on the planet, Ryan sat near the fire, unaware of who was watching him from the sky. Leary had fallen asleep, curled up beside him, her tail wrapped around her toy. Her small hand rested on his arm. Ryan looked at her and sighed softly. He couldn't leave her alone, no matter who she was, no matter what it cost him. He leaned back against the wall, holding his weapon close, and whispered to himself, "We'll get through this, kid." The fire crackled. The forest outside was silent again, and above them, the night sky shimmered faintly with the movement of distant alien ships, still searching for the girl who had already begun to change one man's heart. Morning came slow and quiet. The rain had stopped, and sunlight filtered through the tall trees. The world looked peaceful again, but Ryan knew better. War never ended that easily. He woke before the fox girl. Leary slept curled beside the small fire, her tail moving softly as she dreamed. She looked calm, almost angelic, and Ryan couldn't help but smile. For a brief second, he forgot about the broken world outside. Then a soft hum reached his ears. He froze. It wasn't the sound of birds or wind, it was the faint mechanical tone of a drone. Ryan grabbed his scanner and checked the radar. 3 signals, moving fast. He stood quietly and looked outside through a broken window. Between the trees, silver lights flickered and moved like ghosts. Alien drones. They were searching the forest again. Ryan quickly packed what little he had, his rifle, the water flask, and a small blanket for Leary. He touched her shoulder gently. "Hey, Leary, wake up." Her golden eyes opened slowly. She blinked, confused, then saw his serious face and sat up right away. "We need to move," he said quietly. "Danger." She didn't understand the word, but she felt it. Her ears went flat, and she clutched her toy tightly. Ryan lifted her into his arms and slipped out the back door of the old shelter. They moved fast, staying low, careful not to step on branches. The air hummed above them as the drones passed. For a while it seemed they might escape unseen. But then one of the machines stopped mid-air, scanning the forest floor. Its blue light swept across the trees, and suddenly a metallic voice echoed cold and sharp. "Target life sign detected. Unknown human presence, engage." Ryan cursed under his breath and ran. The beam of light chased them, burning through leaves and bark. Leary screamed, holding onto his neck. He dived behind a large rock as the ground exploded beside them. Dust filled the air. The drone circled above, scanning again. Ryan raised his weapon, aimed carefully, and fired one precise shot. The bullet hit the drone's lens. It sparked and fell, crashing into the trees. But the other 2 drones had already changed direction. They were coming fast. Ryan ran again, deeper into the forest. His breath was heavy, his legs aching, but he didn't stop. Leary buried her face against him, trembling. They finally reached a narrow ravine. Ryan slid down the muddy slope and hid under a fallen log covered in moss. The drones hovered above for a few seconds, scanning, then moved away. He stayed still, holding his breath until the sound faded completely. When he finally looked down, Leary was crying silently. Her small hands gripped his jacket tightly, her eyes full of fear. "Hey," he whispered softly. "It's okay. We're safe now." He brushed her hair gently. She looked up at him and her tears slowly stopped. Then, to his surprise, she reached up and touched his cheek. Her fingers were warm, her eyes glowing faintly. A strange calm passed through him, like an invisible wave. His heartbeat slowed. The pain in his body eased. Ryan blinked. What was that?" Leary looked confused too, as if she didn't fully understand it herself. She touched her chest and then his, trying to explain with gestures. It was as if she could share feelings, fear, calm, trust. A silent connection. Ryan exhaled slowly. "You're something special, aren't you?" She tilted her head and smiled a little. For a moment, the world felt peaceful again. But miles above them, on the alien battleship, Queen Sarathis saw what happened through the energy link she shared with her daughter. The moment Leary touched the human, the bond pulse reached her. Her soldiers turned to her in shock. "My queen, the child's link, someone is near her." Sarathis's eyes burned bright. "A human," she said coldly. "He dares touch my daughter." The energy around her throne flared like fire. "Prepare a dropship." "I'm going down there myself." Her commanders hesitated. "But my queen, the humans are still armed." "I will not ask again," she interrupted, her voice echoing through the chamber. "My daughter calls for me. I will find her." Back on the planet, Ryan carried Leary across a stream. The sun was setting again and golden light painted the water. He found a small cave behind a waterfall where they could hide for the night. He set down his gear and helped Leary wash her hands in the cool water. She laughed softly as she touched the falling drops, her eyes wide with wonder. Ryan smiled. "You like it?" She nodded quickly, her tail wagging a little. For a moment it felt almost normal, like he wasn't a soldier hiding from aliens, but just a man watching over a child. When night came, they sat near a small lamp. Ryan showed her his watch, his badge, and a small photo he kept in his pocket. It was old and faded, his family smiling before the war. Leary pointed at the picture, then at him. "Home?" she asked. Ryan looked at the photo and nodded slowly. "Yeah, home." She touched the image gently, her eyes soft. Then she whispered something in her own language, a word that sounded like hope. Ryan didn't understand the meaning, but he understood the feeling. As the firelight flickered across the cave walls, he whispered quietly, "I'll get you home too, kid," somehow, far above. Queen Sarathis' ship broke through the clouds, fire trailing behind it. The Queen was coming, and nothing in the universe could stop a mother searching for her child. The night was still. Only the waterfall whispered in the dark. Ryan sat near the fire inside the cave, checking his weapon again and again. He knew the drones would come back. The aliens wouldn't stop searching. Leary slept near him, curled up on the soft blanket, her tail wrapped over her face. The soft orange glow from the fire made her fur shimmer like gold. She looked peaceful. Ryan wished he could let her stay that way forever, but his mind was heavy. He didn't know if other humans had survived the war, or if anyone would come for him. And now he had this child, an alien child, depending on him. He sighed softly. "You sure picked the wrong human to save you, kid," he whispered with a small smile. Outside, the wind shifted. The trees moved as if bowing to something powerful. The animals grew silent. Ryan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed his rifle and listened. There was a sound above the forest, deep, heavy, and slow. Then he saw it. A massive alien ship, black as obsidian, descended through the clouds. Its engines glowed with blue fire, lighting up the sky like a second moon. The waterfall rippled as the ground trembled. Ryan's breath caught. No way. It wasn't just another attack craft. This was something far larger, far more dangerous. Inside the ship, Queen Sarathis stood on the deck, her long white hair floating around her like silver fire. Her eyes glowed bright violet. Her armor shimmered like crystal in flame. She looked both graceful and terrifying, a mother, a warrior, a ruler. "Lock onto the energy pulse," she ordered. "My daughter's down there. The human is with her." Her voice was calm but heavy with emotion. She had felt Leary's heartbeat through their psychic bond. Her child was alive. That was all that mattered. Ryan, unaware of how close danger had come, looked back at Leary. She stirred, ears twitching. The faint hum of her mother's ship seemed to call to her. She opened her eyes, sat up, and whispered softly, "Mara." Ryan frowned. "What is it?" Leary pointed to the sky. "Mara." Her voice trembled. Her eyes glowed faintly. Then Ryan understood. "Your mother?" He looked out the cave opening again. The alien ship was lowering to the surface, its light cutting through the trees. Ryan's heart pounded. If her mother was here, that meant soldiers, lots of them. He couldn't fight an army. He turned back to Leary. "Listen, Leary, we have to move again. Do you understand? Move." She looked confused, torn between joy and fear. She could feel her mother's presence, but she didn't want to leave the human who had protected her. Her small hands shook. Ryan packed quickly and lifted her into his arms. He ran through the forest again, heading toward the canyon that might hide them. The ground shook as alien landing pods touched down. Blue light swept the area. The Vareen soldiers, tall and fox-like with glowing armor, stepped from their ships. They moved in formation, scanning every life sign. One of them paused, raising a communicator. "We found the signal, my queen. The child is near the river." Queen Sarathis descended from her ship, her cape flowing behind her like a storm cloud. Her voice was steady, but her eyes burned with emotion. "Alive," she whispered. "My Leary is alive." Ryan reached the riverbank, panting hard. He set Leary down for a moment and tried to plan a path. But the sound of engines was everywhere now. He crouched, looking around. "Come on, think." Then he heard it, a low growl, mechanical, coming from behind. A scout drone emerged from the bushes, its red eye focusing on them. Ryan fired fast. The bullet shattered the lens and the drone fell, but it was too late. The alarm sound echoed through the forest. Leary gasped, "No!" Ryan grabbed her hand and ran again, but bright blue lights appeared in front of them. 3 Vareen soldiers landed from the sky, blocking the path. Their weapons hummed with energy. One of them shouted in their strange language. Ryan couldn't understand, but he knew what it meant. Surrender. He raised his rifle, his heart racing. He couldn't win this fight. Leary ran in front of him and spread her arms, shouting something loud and sharp in her alien tongue. The soldiers froze instantly. They looked at her, then at Ryan. One of them touched his communicator. "It's her. The princess." Before Ryan could move, a powerful light broke through the trees. The queen herself appeared, walking toward them. The soldiers bowed deeply and stepped back. Ryan's eyes widened. She was taller than any human, her presence overwhelming. Her face looked almost human, but with sharp, beautiful features and glowing markings on her skin. Her eyes locked on her daughter first and softened. "Leary," she whispered. The girl cried out and ran to her. The queen dropped her weapon and knelt, wrapping her arms around the child tightly. A tear rolled down her cheek. "My little one." Ryan stood still, unsure what to do. His heart was pounding. The scene looked almost peaceful, but he knew peace never lasted long in war. Queen Serathis lifted her gaze to him. Her eyes glowed brighter. She studied him, her expression unreadable. Half anger, half something else. "You are the human who took my child," she said, her voice like thunder and silk. Ryan swallowed hard. "I saved her." Silence filled the air. The soldiers waited for her command. The queen looked at her daughter, who held Ryan's hand tightly, refusing to let go. Serathis' expression softened again. "Saved her?" she repeated quietly. Ryan nodded once. "Yes, ma'am. I saved her life." The queen's eyes flickered. For the first time, her anger faded, replaced by curiosity. The human stood tall, brave, yet gentle, and her daughter, her precious child, was looking at him with pure trust. Something deep inside her heart shifted. The forest stood silent after the queen's arrival. Her soldiers surrounded the clearing, their armor glowing faint blue, their eyes fixed on the human. None dared move without her command. Ryan stood tall but calm. He had seen death before, but this was different. The alien queen's presence was almost divine, strong, graceful, and dangerous. Her silver hair shimmered in the wind, and her violet eyes burned like fire. Leary still held Ryan's hand tightly. She looked from her mother to him, confused, afraid that one might hurt the other. Queen Serathis looked down at her child, then back at the man who had saved her. "You claim you saved her life," she said, her voice echoing with power. "Yet your kind destroyed our ships. Why should I believe you?" Ryan kept his voice steady. "Because I didn't shoot her. I protected her. When your army attacked, she was alone, scared, crying. I couldn't leave her to die." The queen's expression softened for just a heartbeat before turning cold again. "You could have used her as bait, or taken her as a prisoner." "I could have," Ryan said quietly. "But I didn't. I'm not your enemy." Silence filled the air. The soldiers shifted uneasily, waiting for the queen's reaction. Then Leary tugged on her mother's arm and pointed at Ryan's jacket still wrapped around her. She said something softly in her alien language, her voice trembling but gentle. Serathis blinked in surprise. Her daughter was defending the human. She knelt and placed her hand on Leary's cheek. "He protected you?" she asked softly. Leary nodded. "Rin safe," she whispered. The queen froze. The child had spoken human words. Ryan smiled faintly. She learned fast. Serathis looked at him again, truly looked at him this time. The human's eyes were tired but kind. His armor was damaged, his face covered with soot, but there was no fear in him, only quiet strength. "Take him," one soldier said. "We should not trust him, my queen." But Serathis raised her hand. "No, not yet." She walked closer to Ryan until she was only a few feet away. The glow of her armor lit his face. "You saved my child," she said slowly. "That is a debt I cannot ignore. But you are also human, part of the race that attacked us. I must know why." Ryan took a breath. "I didn't start this war. I was following orders. But I saw the destruction, your ships, your people. It didn't feel right. Then I found her and I realized, you're not monsters. You're people, just like us." The queen's eyes softened again. "People," she repeated quietly, as if testing the word. Her soldiers exchanged nervous glances. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Ryan looked at Leary, who smiled faintly at him, then back at the queen. "If I hadn't found her, she'd be gone, I think. Fate wanted us to meet." Serathis studied him in silence. Her heart, once full of anger, felt something unfamiliar. Respect. Maybe even admiration. The man who should have been her enemy spoke with honesty, not fear. Finally, she said, "You will come with us to our ship. I will decide your fate there." Ryan nodded slowly. "If that's what it takes to keep her safe, I'll go." Leary looked at him alarmed. "Rin, no." He knelt beside her. "It's okay, kid. I promised I'd protect you. I'm keeping that promise." The queen turned away, signaling her guards. "Prepare the ship." As they walked toward the clearing, Leary held Ryan's hand tightly, refusing to let go. Even the Queen noticed. She stopped and looked at them both. Her voice softened again. You truly care for her. Ryan nodded. She's just a kid. Anyone would have done the same. No, Sarathis said quietly. Not anyone. The alien Queen stared at him, studying his face, the way he looked at her child. Not with fear or desire, but with pure kindness. That same kindness had saved Lyri's life. And in that moment she realized something unexpected. For the first time, an alien queen felt curious about a human, not as an enemy, but as a man. When they reached the landing platform, the ship's massive doors opened, revealing a shining blue light inside. The air hummed with energy. Ryan stepped forward, still holding Lyri's hand. The Queen followed close behind. Inside the ship, the walls glowed with strange symbols, alive with flowing energy. It was like walking inside a living creature. Lyri looked happy to be home, yet she wouldn't stop looking back at Ryan. The Queen noticed. She trusts you more than she trusts her own people, she said softly. That is unusual. Ryan smiled faintly. Guess trust doesn't care about species. Sarathis's eyes flickered with something close to amusement. Perhaps not. As the ship lifted off, leaving the forest below, Ryan felt the weight of the moment. He had stepped into another world, one ruled by the very beings humanity feared. But he wasn't afraid. He had seen their hearts through a child's eyes. The Queen stood beside him, looking out at the stars. Human, she said quietly, your courage is strange to me. Ryan looked at her. Guess we're both learning new things. For the first time, the Queen smiled, a small, rare smile that softened her sharp features, and somewhere deep inside her, something began to change. The alien ship moved silently through the night sky, leaving the burning forest far behind. Ryan stood near the observation window, looking down at the blue-green planet below. The war that once filled it now seemed so small and distant. He could see his reflection in the glass, tired eyes, dirt on his face, blood on his sleeve, but beside him stood Lyri, smiling softly. Her small hand gripping his, she looked peaceful, safe. That was all that mattered. Behind them, Queen Sarathis entered the chamber. Her steps were light but powerful, her presence filling the room like a wave of energy. The soldiers bowed as she passed, but she said nothing. Her eyes were fixed only on the human and the child. Leave us, she ordered softly. The guards exited quietly, leaving only the three of them in the wide, glowing hall. For a long time, the Queen said nothing. She stood beside the window, staring at the stars. Ryan waited, unsure what to expect. Punishment, interrogation, or maybe execution. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm but heavy. You are a strange creature, human. Ryan gave a tired smile. I've heard that before. She turned her gaze toward him. You saved my child? And yet you are one of the soldiers who fought us. He nodded. I didn't come to this planet to start a war. I came to protect my people. But when I saw your daughter alone, scared, I couldn't walk away. No soldier could ignore that. The Queen's eyes softened. Many would have. Maybe, he said quietly. But I didn't. Lyri climbed into his arms again, resting her head against his chest. Her tail curled around his arm. The Queen watched them silently, her expression changing. No longer anger, but something far more human. Understanding. Your kind and mine have destroyed each other for years, she said slowly. I believed no human could feel compassion for us. I see now. I was wrong, Ryan nodded. We've both been wrong. Maybe it's time someone tried to fix it. The Queen stepped closer. Her violet eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. You speak with courage. You protect what you love even when you gain nothing from it. She paused, her voice lower. Among my people, such loyalty is rare. It is precious. Ryan met her gaze, steady and respectful. Where I come from, we just call it doing the right thing. A soft smile touched her lips, a small, rare smile that made her seem almost human. You have earned my respect, Ryan Hale, she said. And something more. Ryan frowned. Something more? The Queen placed her hand over her chest. Among the Vareen, when a life debt is owed, it is sacred. You saved the heir of my blood. That bond cannot be broken. Lyri looked up at her mother, smiling brightly. Mara Ringgood. Sarathis smiled faintly and nodded. Yes, my child. He is good. She turned to Ryan again. By our law, The one who saves the Queen's blood becomes part of the royal bond. You are now bound to our family, human. You are one of us. Ryan blinked, unsure what to say. I don't think I understand. The Queen stepped closer, her tone soft but sincere. It means by our custom, you are my chosen. My mate. Ryan froze. You're what? Leary giggled softly, not understanding the words but happy at their closeness. The Queen's face was calm, her eyes gentle now. I know this is strange for you, human, but I do not speak lightly. You saved what I treasure most. In our culture, that bond is stronger than any vow. Ryan didn't know what to say. His heart pounded, not out of fear but surprise. This wasn't what he expected. He looked at her and said quietly, I didn't save her to earn anything. I just did what anyone should do. I know, she said softly. That is why it means so much. There was silence between them. The stars shone beyond the glass, endless and bright. Finally, the Queen turned toward the window. Our worlds are broken, but perhaps they can heal, if we learn to see each other not as enemies, but as partners. Ryan looked at her, and for the first time he didn't see an alien queen. He saw someone just as lost, just as human, searching for peace in a universe filled with pain. He nodded slowly. Then maybe this is a new beginning. Sarathis met his eyes. A beginning, she repeated softly. For both our worlds. Leary smiled and hugged them both, her tail wrapping around them like a ribbon of light. The Queen placed her hand on her daughter's head. Sleep, my child. We are home now. Leary's eyes closed, her breathing soft and calm. The ship drifted through the stars, carrying them away from war and into something new, something fragile but full of hope. As the lights dimmed, the Queen glanced at Ryan one last time. You are no longer just a soldier, human. You are a symbol of peace between us. Ryan smiled faintly. Guess I'll have to live up to that. And as the stars glowed brighter around them, the once enemies stood together, human and alien. Soldier and Queen, united not by war but by kindness, courage, and the bond of a small lost child who had changed everything.